Programmet presenteras av betsafe.com.
This is Marcus Kowal with Studiomma and MMA Net, and we're back here with Brian Stann. We've got 2 days to fighting. We've got weigh-ins tomorrow. How's the energy levels?
You know, the energy levels are pretty good. You know, this is some of the more exciting parts of the sport, and it's an important part for me where, you know, for my personal legacy, and every fighter thinks about that. You know, one of the things that's really important to me is I want to help progress the sport. I want to help make people realize, not just in America but worldwide, that we are professionals, we're elite level athletes, we're good human beings, and that the traditional character and values of martial arts has not been lost in the sport. In fact, it's very, very strong. So, you know, I enjoy this time the week before and the chance to be here in Sweden and talk to different outlets that I've never spoken to before.
It's funny because before you came over here and when it was announced that you were going to come to Sweden and fight, you know, you're such a hero back home in America, whereas in Sweden it was like, oh, American soldier and so on. It wasn't as positive, the feedback. After a couple of interviews here, I was going through some of the interviews, the comments afterwards yesterday, and everyone's like, Brian's such a nice guy, you know. It was someone even said a Swedish saying, which actually comes across if you translate it as evil guy, but it means like a wicked guy, like a cool guy. And someone said, oh, maybe you shouldn't put that in case it puts it in iGoogle and Googles it because it comes out as a bad guy when it's so nice. How does that make you feel hearing that, you know, it's such a transition in the viewing of you as a person at least?
Well, you know, it feels really good. And you know, I didn't look at a lot of those comments, so I didn't know that that's how it was being viewed. But I do understand that there's, you know, certainly a different international view on some of the conflicts overseas that America's involved in than obviously we have in the States. And that's everybody's right to have that. You know, and I've certainly never beat my chest about, you know, being an imperial America, saying we should take over other countries, you know, and I see comments like that online somewhere, and I just don't know where people come up with these things, because it's certainly not the case. I mean, some of my most memorable moments overseas were when we were rebuilding schools and giving food to kids and helping them with coloring books and giving them school books. I mean, we do those things on a daily basis. And so it's just really interesting, the perspective of people. And, you know, I'm really glad that maybe through some of these interviews that I was able to change some people's perspective and opinions on me.
And we saw it. It was actually, I think I read more comments on any interview that we did with you, or when it was announced that you were going to fight here. It was some people saying that, oh, you know, American military and so on, and then people defending you as well. And it was like a whole big argument, discussion about you, and you weren't even aware of it.
You know, ever since I was a kid, I've always been polarizing, and I've had to learn to accept that. Most people in my life will either like me or they'll dislike me. There's usually no in-between. I've never met too many people who would say, you know, Brian Stann, he's okay. They either strongly dislike me or they like me. And, you know, I've tried to work on things. I mean, obviously martial arts and the military keeps you very, very humble. And I've certainly, for as many successes as I've had in my life, I've probably had 3 times as many failures. So, you know, I'm used to it, and it was tough at first when I was first in MMA to see negative comments about you. It hurts anybody's feelings. Nobody wants to be viewed that way. Over time, you just get used to it and accept the fact that, you know, there's just some people out there that no matter what you do, they're going to dislike you.
Now, you're saying people dislike you. You're a family man. You know, it's easy sometimes to portray yourself as a nice guy on camera. We've seen you off camera. You're a really all-around nice guy. What ticks you off? Why would anyone think that you're not a nice guy?
You know what? There are certain things that tick me off. Some of the things, honestly, my biggest pet peeve in life is people who enjoy hurting other people's feelings for no good reason. And unfortunately, in today's society where you have so much open access, you know, Facebook and Twitter and things of that nature, you know, I'm a father, so I see these kids in my neighborhood growing up and see what young kids have to deal with at school with bullying and things like that. And you'll see that sometimes, and that's probably been, you know, my biggest pet peeve, and it's one of the things that in my gym back in Atlanta that we really project to our children, you know, that, hey, just because you train here doesn't give you the right to hurt anybody's feelings or use what we're teaching you against someone, you know, unless this is the scenario.
You see, you know, other fighters that are like you, very, very good at being a role model to kids and other adults as well, and especially within a sport which is very macho. Young teenagers, guys especially, who tend to be the ones to hurt other people at least physically. But we see also fighters that don't do it. Obviously, everyone have their own right to do so, but how do you get other fighters to realize that whether they like it or not, they are role models?
You know, I think it's happening more and more. I think really they're going to have no choice. This new Fox deal that the UFC signed is astronomical for the sport, and it's putting more and more cameras and more access towards every fighter, where we may not be as big as celebrities as American football players are, but what people don't realize is we're actually more recognizable. When we fight, we don't have a helmet on.
Yeah.
People see us, it's an individual sport. So I think more and more fighters are realizing that they are role models, and the good thing is, though, is that in this sport, nobody goes undefeated. Everybody gets humbled. Nobody's allowed to just sit on top of the mountain for a long time. Everybody has somebody that's got their number, and that's part of that martial culture, that martial arts culture that we have in this sport where, you know, behind the scenes, you know, me and my opponents, after we fight, there's a lifelong bond that exists once you fought.
Right.
You see each other on the street one day in the future, and there's always a mutual respect no matter what the outcome was.
Now, you've been in the military, you've been through some hard scenes that no one will ever experience. You seem so calm all the time. Some fighters say, oh, I don't get nervous, I'd love to fight. How do you feel? Just when do you get nervous? When do the jitters kick in? And when you walk out to the cage? Or
Every fighter gets nervous. Every fighter gets nervous. And you know what? I actually had an issue with that early in my career where I wouldn't get nervous. I mean, this was simply something I was, even when I was in the WEC in my early days, it was just something I did in the weekend. I had a full-time job. I didn't have any trainers. And so I wouldn't get nervous. And what I found out was I didn't fight as well when I didn't get nervous. And as your career progresses, though, you get bigger and bigger fights. And all of a sudden, there's things, you have something to lose finally. When you have something to lose and you're actually passionate about what you do, you're going to get nervous no matter what you do. And so any fighter who says that they don't is completely lying. You go backstage in the UFC, back those locker rooms before the fights, and I'll guarantee that 70% of the guys back there are wishing that at some point in time the commission would come back there and say, hey, your guy got hurt, your fight just got canceled. You know, there's part of them that's like, okay, I'm here to do this, and then there's part of them that's like, oh my God, I'm scared to death. Even a champion in George St. Pierre would admit that. For me, it's different. Obviously, because of my life experiences, I don't think I get nearly as nervous as other fighters do. But of course, I do get some nerve because I really care about this. I care about my performance. And it's more important to me to ensure that I fight hard. You know, outcomes are outcomes. That's out of my control. If I fight hard and I fight to my game plan, then the cards are going to fall where they may, and chances are I'm going to win. But if I go out there and I don't fight hard, you know, that's what I get nervous about. That's what I'd be disappointed in. And luckily for me, I don't really have any fights that I really, really regret.
We had some questions from some of the Swedish fans, and one of them was, from your last fight, have you worked on your jiu-jitsu at all?
You know, I work on my jiu-jitsu all the time, and
Right.
it's interesting because people don't realize how good a grappler Chael Sonnen is.
Right.
You could put him with any world champion jiu-jitsu black belt in a gym, and he's going to do very well. Does he have some high-profile submission losses? He does, but he's actually a very, very good grappler. I train with very high-level, elite-level jiu-jitsu practitioners, and for this particular camp, I train with a lot of really good jiu-jitsu guys. I work on it every day. I work on my wrestling every day. I just happen to fight the best guys in the world, so sometimes they're going to make you look bad.
Now, during the press conference today, Sakara said, was it Bing Boom Bam? That's what he was looking forward to on Saturday night. You had some fights with Bing Boom Bam as well. A lot of knockouts on your record. You got very powerful hands. Now, on Saturday night, are you planning on standing in front of him the way he mentioned it, or do you believe that that grappling experience that you have will be to an advantage to you on the ground?
You know, I think at some point it will hit the mat, you know, whether it's a trip, a takedown, or a knockdown. But I know I plan on going after him. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to go after Alessio, and I like that he wants to stand there and strike. I think he's going to be the more elusive Alessio Sakara. You know, if people watch his last 4 or 5 fights, he hasn't been a stand in the pocket, you know, predator. He's been more of a moving around type of guy. I think early in his career, he really tried to stand and trade like a boxer, and he got KO'd a couple times. So I don't plan on seeing that Sakara Saturday night. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I think after the first exchange, when he feels my power, he'll move a little bit more and be a bit more tactical about it. And I anticipate him shooting for a takedown. I know he trains everything at ATT. It doesn't make any sense to me for his game plan to be 3 rounds to stand in front of me and bang. I think he's going to move around beyond his horse, trying to lure me in a striking match, and then maybe shoot for a takedown. And I have no issues being on the mat with him.
You heard from Brian Stann, who's going to be in the co-main event on Saturday night in Globen, which is actually directly behind us right now. And Swedish fans, you get to see an American fighter fight an Italian fighter, and the outcome, Saturday night. Make sure you don't miss it. All right, buddy. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Programmet presenteras av Betsay.com.